of data analytics. Though the RBI paper says that it is not desirable to have a single criterion for judging income of a household, but is it possible for the sake of the entire sector that a suggestive or uniform set of data points can be suggested to assess the household income? This is regarding the income and appropriateness of the household as a unit for creditworthiness. Now, one of the overarching ambitions of this proposal of RBI is to provide a level playing field to all the regulated entities. And the RBI hopes that the competitive forces will bring down the interest rates. But we know that the pricing of credit is directly linked to the cost of funds. So, is it possible for all the regulated entities to lower interest rates without a level playing field in access to funds? The other issue is, does the proposed fact sheet capture all relevant parameters on pricing of microfinance loans in a simplified manner as the guidelines intend to? The next issue is that whether a need plan definition of microfinance loans appropriate considering the myriad needs of low income households. As per the existing guidelines, education and medical loans are outside the quantum that is fixed for the microfinance loans. Here, all needs are clubbed together. So, whether it is appropriate to judge the credit needs of a household, is it possible to raise the income limit from 1,25,000 for rural areas and 2 lakh for the semi-urban and urban areas, or offer exceptions as is already there, like education, medical, or emergency needs, and whether the cap on outgoes for loan repayment addresses the problem of over-indebtedness, since it only applies to loans from the regulated entities. The RBI proposes to cap all loan obligations at 50% of the income of the household, but that is only what they are availing from the regulated entities. The household may also have loans from informal sources. So whether it will address the problem of over indebtedness, that is another issue for the House to debate on. Then there is this criterion prescribed for exemption to not-for-profit companies engaged in microfinance activity appropriate. The guidelines provide that Section 8 companies which have above 100 crore will be brought under the purview of the Section 45 1B and C of the RBI Act. Well, the guidelines also say that since only 10% of the Section 8 companies are above this threshold asset limit, 90% of the Section 8 companies will be still exempt and enjoy the exemptions provided by Reserve Bank of India. But we know that the regulatory compliance also brings some cost. So whether this criterion is appropriate or not. The second proposal is an net owned fund of 20 crore for NBFCs under scale based regulations, whether it is appropriate for the NBFC MFIs. As you all know, the current guidelines say is 5 crore in rest of the country and 2 crores in northeast for the NBFC MFIs. So whether the 20 crore is appropriate. And lastly, being an Awardian, what I cannot help but worry about what will be the effect on group loans, as many of the households have members accessing loans from SHG and JLG as well. And we from NABARD encouraging the SHGs to go for much higher loans. And in fact, post-COVID, the government of India has also raised the limit of collateral-free loans to 20 lakh for SHG members. So what happens to the group loans? Because the entire household loans will be kept in a way. So what will be the fate of the group loans? So these are some of the issues that I have flagged, and I'm sure with so many distinguished members in the panel, there will probably be many more. So with this, I conclude my presentation. And Sudhirji, over to you.
Thank you, Deepmalaji. Despite a little odd that we could not do the statistics,
I'm also
but you did your best, and you have put up the entire thing in a complete capsule manner. Thank you very much. Thank you, and we are really thankful for the board to extend the support. Sir, now with this presentation from Bar Deepmala Ghosh, now we are going proceeding towards our program. First of all, आज के program के बारे में I can only submit, very humbly submit, that it is the presence of our ex-deputy governor Gandhi Saab that today we have crossed 100 participants. When I personally devised this entire program, I never expected that being a state association of such a small organization of 25-30 members, we will be having such a great participation. So Gandhi Saab, this is your aura, this is your fame known to the people, that people are very much anxious to listen all of you. Before that, now I request our NABARD UP RO CGM Dr. D.S. Chauhan sir to kindly set the tone. In fact, Chauhan Saab has very few days back has initiated this initiative, put the ball into rolling by creating first-hand information on this new guideline, this consultation paper on RBI. He has invited, he has convened a session in his office. I'm proud to be part of that. So with this, with looking this initiative, I will invite Dr. Chauhan to kindly have few words while setting the tone. Thank you, sir. Respected to answer.
Sabhi ko namaskar, and I hope I am audible. I am in right now. I am at Sonbhadra and I am joining from there. So I believe my this connectivity will hold through. Yes. Respected ex DG RBI Shri Gandhi ji, Sinha ji, and faculty member from BIRD Deepmala Ghosh. Maybe she was not aware that I am also on board. So don't know, but I think she was not aware. Coming to the coming to the points, one thing I would like to say, if ex DG RBI is there as a distinguished, I would say mentor, not the participant, then I'm not going to set the tone as such. The issue is that the new guidelines which have been proposed by RBI, and the RBI as a matter of norm and practice had called for the feedbacks also. So the few things I would like to dwell upon, and also the issues flagged by BIRD. Other day I was discussing with director regarding this, and I thought that he will be there, but maybe because of exigencies he couldn't link up. So Deepmala has flagged a few issues, and all of us may be deliberating on it. But the 3-4 things which are coming to my mind regarding this entire proposed new guidelines. I think the intent and the spirit of the regulator is very clean and clear with these proposed new guidelines. The level playing field and giving more autonomy to the MFIs, and also trying to have some more windows of business for them. But with autonomy, certain responsibilities do come in. So one thing which I feel is, which I think most of the MFIs, especially those who have yet to reach some level of business and establish themselves, will have to look into the governance part, with the boards getting this sort of autonomicity to decide the rate of interest, to decide the type of products and loans which they want to give. They have to be a little more professional, and a lot of good governance and governance related to taking decision on financial matters will be now vested with board. And here I think training institutes like BIRD can come forward, design certain modules for board members of the MFIs, so that they get a lot of exposure to the new governance norms which will be there once these regulations come into force. As Deepmala was telling, yes, there will be issues when we go to household income. I think someone has not muted the mic. Please kindly mute your mics.
I think it will be better if all those who are not speaking can mute their mics. So please mute your mics.
Somebody is having mute. With Ani, right?
Okay. And my regards to Satish ji also, because I was not aware he's already linked up. So the what point I was trying to make was that now governance, good governance, and taking very due diligence based and conscious decisions on rate of interest, the types of loans now will vest with the board of directors of the MFIs. So they will need some sort of inputs from institutions like BIRD and MFIN and Sadan. So that will be required. As far as household income is concerned, yes, it will be a gray area, because primarily there won't be a lot of macro data available which can be relied upon. So way back when this SHG bank linkage program, which we launched through NABARD, I think Satish ji will definitely remember that we used to say a household diary system. And the people like us and other who used to move to the field, they will take a stock of the things on the basis of the expenditure a household is having. And with that, we used to then ask what are the resources, and then try to assess some sort of household income. Now things have moved. Maybe 20 years back I am talking about this, but it's still most of the rural households will not, you can't get a data at a one place which you can say, okay, this is which I can rely upon and this is the household income. So definitely all the MFIs have to devise a way of their own to assess this household income. How to go about it and what type of things they will devise, will only time will be able to tell. But again, I would say that this is also an area where training institutions like BIRD and maybe microfinance associations like UPMA, Sadan, and microfinance, MFINs, and of course NABARD, our own MCID, can just give some sort of framework and some sort of model which can be relied upon by the MFIs, and accordingly they may make certain changes based on their area of operation to assess the household income. Rate of interest, yes, rate of interest now sort of deregulated will have not necessarily that it will go down. Maybe the larger MFIs will have a little more scope, and something like what happened in banking industry, that finally SBI leads the fixing of the rate of interest. So same way, I think smaller MFIs will somewhere look to some benchmarks set up by the bigger MFIs and accordingly take a decision. But definitely the cost of fund option and the expenditure uh, will be varying from MFI to MFI. So it will definitely not be like that, that we can conquer here that rate of interest is definitely going to come down. So, but it will be like some sort of market related things, and it may, some MFIs may be lending at a little higher and some may be at a little lower than the benchmark finally, which will come, and these benchmarks will also differ. But the point is, in spite of all financial inclusion and other things which we are pursuing, there is a big cake available, and those of us in the rural India especially who do not get access to credit really don't bother for the higher rate of interest, because most of the time the ticket size is low and the tenure is also ranging between 12 to sometimes from 6 to 18 months. So finally, to a poor person taking a loan of 10,000 at the rate of 20% for 6 months, or taking a loan of 10,000 at 24% for 6 months, doesn't matter much in the quantum. So this rate of interest thing which we are discussing, I think RBI has taken a right decision. Let the lender decide at what rate and at basis of their own efficiency. Other things, let them decide, and it is not going to really cut into the business arenas. Of course, there will be a few other things which have to be taken care of. And one of them will be regarding what Deepmala ji said is about the multiple loaning. Now, multiple loaning and multiple doses of credit will not be that easily cut off till we have a really sanitized, centralized and sanitized data system. I don't think that anywhere RBI will come into the picture when they can't say that if you take a loan from MFI, your KCC will become invalid. So in a household, there will be, yes, KCC loans will be there. Other credit players will be also paying government sponsored scheme, which are basically credit linked. They cannot be debarred. So a household will definitely continue to have multiple credit exposures, and it will be left to the prudency of the microfinance institution to assess how much to lend and whether to lend or not to lend. And right now also most of the MFIs are dealing with the customers who or the households which are already having multiple credits exposures. So let's see how and why. Again, I say that it will be now the prudency of the board to formulate their own strategies and their own policy. A lot will depend now on the board. Maybe my assessment is wrong, but most of the time MFIs are individual centric. The CEO or the founder, chairman.
The person you are speaking with.
So it will be now more of a board level group decision making, and I think MFIs will now have to hire professionals on the board. Lastly, as far as group lending is concerned, I don't see much problem which has been flagged by BIRD faculty because most of the MFIs have individual loan accounts and records. Though they may be utilizing a group way of lending to cut down on their expenditures, to cut down on their resource meeting, instead of 10 people at 10 places in a sort of Bangladesh Grameen Bank model, let 10 people be there at one place. And it can be assessed. Suppose there are 10 members, different, but they are from different 10 households. So by having a household income, you can definitely say that within a group, I will give X amount to Y and Z amount to Y plus 1. And of course, the peer level security or guarantee or social security systems will continue once you are lending through a group model. So I don't foresee much of a problem as far as this is concerned. And now with IT age and softwares there, MFIs can easily bend over these things. So these are a few things which come to my mind. Especially, I would again repeat that now the boards of the MFIs will have to be very, very professional and very efficient. I don't mean to say that currently they are not, but with these new regulations in place, it will require more efficiency, more acumen in the decision making, basically the financial ones, and of course the tenure and the recovery mechanisms may also change a bit. So this is all I would say. I will congratulate UPMA for organizing this brainstorming interactive event today. And I am sure with more enlightened participants expressing their view, we will come out with certain very relevant feedbacks which we can send to Reserve Bank of India also, so that a more refined policy comes into place. Thank you all, and thank you for inviting me to join here.
Thank you, Chauhan sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation, for your wonderful words. Sir, whatever you have said, we have taken a note of it. And certainly when we'll come to you, we will discuss on all these issues. We'll try to, after today's deliberation, we will try to come out with what the deliberations is there in the capsule manner, and then we will find out how we can represent to the SBI. Thank you very much. So, sir, now we are proceeding towards the formal agenda. Before we invite Tamalda for a brief introduction of the subtopic. The topic is known to all of us, and also a formal introduction of our today's chief guest. I would request the speakers to kindly maintain the time schedule, because we are already behind the schedule, and we have assured our chief guest Gandhi sir that we will try to abide by the time schedule. So speakers are kindly requested to maintain time schedule. With this, my special request to with esteemed speaker, I now request Tamalda to kindly come forward and take the stage, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir Sahab. You are already running late, so I'll be as brief as possible, because all of us have come here to hear Mr. Gandhi, and he is the person who actually had a ringside view of 2010 Andhra Pradesh crisis. So he has lots to say and lots to advise. I would make it very brief. And essentially, I'll be repeating what I had said at Satish's MFIN conference. So this is RBI's way of saying that now all regulations will have to be not in accordance with the nature of the beast, like whether you are a bank or MFI, but it's an activity-based regulation. So it's microfinance. Whoever is in microfinance will be regulated on the same way. In the same way, and essentially that makes it a level playing field, and that does not give you any more excuse that look, some banks are coming here and doing certain things which they should not do. So there is no more excuse for not doing well for the microfinance entities. So I'm just telling you the other side of it. That's one part of it. And you see, the essentially it's all freedom. It's a free market. Free market, how many people can give? Free market, what will be the loan rate? Everything is a free. So one is a level playing field, and second is a free market. So with the freedom comes your responsibility, because even though it's a level playing field when it comes to regulation, it's not a level playing field when it comes to cost of funds. Your cost of fund is much higher than the bank's cost of funds. Probably it's a 10%, 11, 12 percentage point, there'll be differential, the cost of funds. So how do you compete? That's the thing, whether banks will not be able to, get in where you are already in, because of this linking it to their ability, the microfinance borrowers' ability to pay back their household income, etc. But even in the new market, you have to go to the new market, because you can't just allow the borrowers to be over leveraged, what has been happening till now, probably. But then how do you compete with banks? So you need to be more efficient. Probably you need to depend more on technology. That does not mean that group meetings are not important, because here there is no collateral. Group meetings are collateral. So you build relationship with them. So while your cost of fund is much higher, but you need to figure out how do you manage this? How do you be competitive? Well, the popular belief is this: because there is no other source and you are always being compared with the money lenders, so you can get away by 24, 26, 28% interest rate charging. That may not be correct, because banks and small finance banks and universal bank will be in the same market. So again, I'm coming back to that. I'm not getting into all the other nitty-gritty. You need to be more efficient, and you need to depend on newer things like credit rating, etc., etc. Because you can now charge any interest to anybody. So in the same geography, if my credit rating is bad, you can charge me 24%. But if somebody else's credit rating is good, you can charge them 18% or so. So at the end of the day, I'm just summarizing. As I said, I don't want to talk more. Yes, this is a level playing field. There is no more excuse for you, for the microfinance entities, for not doing well and blaming the banks. It will not happen anymore. At the same time, there is no level playing field when it comes to the cost of funds, because with the same funds you have to fight. I mean, with the higher cost of funds, you have to fight with banks. So that means you need to go to newer geographies in search of new markets. You need to look for new customers, and you need to be more efficient in the sense how to bring down the cost income ratio, how to bring down the 10 percentage point, the spread that you enjoy to 7 or 8 percentage point. That means probably depending more on digitalization, depending more on credit rating and all the other finance aspects. So I think it's a completely new era that will start, and that's the reality. So don't just say 3 cheers and is the level playing field. With the freedom, lots of responsibilities, and you have to see how to change yourself. So it's a completely new way of doing business, where the boards will be more responsible and you need to be more efficient. And probably digitalization has to come. There is no choice. At the same time, because these business are not backed by collaterals, you need to keep the relationship going as thick as possible to ensure the quality of assets. With that, Sinha Saab, I am through, and let's get on moving. Thank you, Upma. Thank you, Mr. Sinha.
Thank you very much, Tamal sir. Thank you very much for always being kind enough to and actually to my request. Of course, your views and your entire things, the entire sector is already aware when you wrote an article, a new era in microfinance. So your views are already there, but still we wanted to listen you here in this conference. With this remark, now we come up to the speakers to kindly flag the issues on the topics where he would like to listen Gandhi sir today. In this context, first of all, I would like to invite Shri Ajay Karwal, MD Jana Small Finance Bank, to kindly share the issues or topics where he would like to listen our chief guest, Shri Gandhi sir. Karwal sir.
Namaste Sudhirji, and I hope everybody can hear me. Namaste, and a lot of friends and seniors, so I will do a group namaste to everyone without naming anyone in specifics. I'm also conscious of time, so let me just delve into a few things which I think are very relevant. You know, if I'm an investor today, I would be more happy to invest in a microfinance business, and whether it's in a microfinance institution or an SFB, purely because I think what the Reserve Bank of India through its consultative paper has done is really focused on A, governance, and 2, bringing some level of discipline, I would say. Level playing field is important, but I think it's more of a disciplined approach. So let me quickly go into what we see and what at least I see as the best things and some of the challenges. So I think the household income is very important. We lend to a lot of women borrowers. Many times they take the money, give it to the husbands for their business. They're not necessarily the bread earners of the family. So for us to look at a household is very important. The question that we should really ask ourselves is, why would we look at a household only for microfinance? You could very well take a two-wheeler loan and that will add to your burden. So when you calculate 50% of household income is to be used for repayments, I think that should include every single loan. I think possibly we should look at a regulation which says all loans to this segment, doesn't matter what kind of loan it is, should not exceed 50% of income. And I think that's very important if you're worried about, and we should be, rightfully so, worried about the health, financial health of a customer, not over leveraging the customer. So I think it's a very good step, but we should probably take it to the next level. There is always a question around how do we calculate household income? And I'm very happy that the boards and the companies will decide, because like I think Deepmala rightly mentioned, you could have different variations depending on what your occupation is or what your geography is. So allowing people some amount of leeway because it is informal, I think is important. And which is where the boards and the CEOs will play a role, where you really define how it is done. But I think the bigger point is not about how it is done, that it has to be done. It's a key way how we all think and how we all behave, I think is the crux of the issue. If you can make credit bureaus give household exposures and not individual exposures, I think that'll be a real help, even if it comes the next 6 months to 1 year. I think pricing wise, it's very good because it really allows MFIs, which SFBs were allowed earlier, to price for risk. I think we all discuss whether, how price will go down. We should certainly talk about it. But if one looks at demonetization and pandemic, and in all banking terminology, we talk of what is economic loss through the cycle. If you actually add the losses that many of us, if not all of us, have made during demon and now in pandemic, I think first time we will be able to really do a pricing based on what I think is lost through the economic cycle. And we should really build that because it is not clear in our heads what would be the next crisis. But having seen a few crises, at least 2 in the last 6 years, it's relevant for us to bring in that level of risk in our pricing. I completely agree with Amalda where pricing for risk is relevant. So if you're a second-time borrower, third-time borrower, I think we can all, if you're already in the bureau or you're not in the bureau, what kind of occupation you have. So there are various ways now we can really do price for risk. To me, the big point is relieving price from all burdens is price for risk. I do think there's a risk that somebody may overcharge depending if he's deep in some geography, nobody is coming. I think SROs, which Satish Ran or Sudhirji manages, can play a role on figuring out anybody doing usurious pricing. Padma Kumar, you're audible to everybody else. Thank you, Padma Kumar. The final piece I would like to say is, I think, if today as a bank, I want to incentivize somebody to pay digitally, I can't, because the same product cannot be, you can't incentivize a customer to pay digitally versus cash. I think for microfinance, we should allow that because the amount of money we spend collecting cash, the amount of risk our people take going out, meeting customers, especially in this environment, I think we can do service better if we do non-electronic way of payment. So the other thing that we could really focus on as a group and get in the consultative paper is, can we differentiate a digital payment versus not? With that, I would like to stop here. And again, Sudhirji, thank you for inviting me. And it's such a pleasure to be amongst friends. Thank you.
Shri Rakesh Dubey, sir. Shri Rakesh Dubey.
जी, thank you, Sudhir ji. Good afternoon, everybody. कई चीजें काफी देर से बात हो रही है सेक्टर पे, तो मुझे समझ में आता है इस सेक्टर में 1997 से रहने के बाद कि हम लोग या कह लीजिए कि नो गवर्नेंस स्टेज से टाइट गवर्नेंस स्टेज में आए। जब 2011 का बिल आया, 2015-16 में बैंक बने, अब टाइट गवर्नेंस से शायद रीजनेबल गवर्नेंस की तरफ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। और रीजनेबल गवर्नेंस में जो बहुत दिनों से डिमांड थी, गांधी साहब से भी हम लोगों ने मुलाकात की थी जब आप डिप्टी गवर्नर हुआ करते थे एमफिन की तरफ से, और सतीश जी के साथ भी हम लोग गए थे। और बार बार यही थी कि प्रोडक्ट काफ़ी हार्ड बाउंडेड है माइक्रो फाइनेंस में, प्राइसिंग भी काफ़ी हार्ड बाउंडेड है, तो मौका दिया जाना चाहिए एमएफआईज को उस पर सोचने का, काम करने का। नाउ थैंक्स टू आरबीआई दैट उन्होंने सोचा 2-3 साल में सारी चीज़ें समझ के उन्होंने ये कहा कि नहीं, अब ठीक है, अब जो भी प्रोडक्ट आप देना चाहते हैं बारोवर्स को, आप खुद डिसाइड कीजिए, प्राइसिंग खुद डिसाइड कीजिए, देयर आर पैरामीटर्स, बोर्ड उस पर काम करे और किस तरह से आप बेटर सर्विसेज कस्टमर को देना चाहते हैं उस पर काम करना शुरू कीजिए। बट 2-3 चीज़ें मुझे लग रहा है कि इससे भी, चूँकि जब चीज़ें आसान हो जाती हैं तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और अकाउंटेबिलिटी और बढ़ जाती है, और अब अकाउंटेबिलिटी और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी शायद बड़े प्लेयर्स की ज़्यादा बढ़ जाती है, क्योंकि जो छोटे और मझोले प्लेयर हैं वो वही देखना चाहेंगे और करना चाहेंगे जो बड़े प्लेयर्स कर रहे हैं या एसएफबीज करेंगे। और साथ में मैं किसी से बात कर रहा था तो ये डिस्कशन हो रहा था क्या एसआरओ की रिलेवेंस बचती है या नहीं बचती। तो मुझे लगता है कि एसआरओ की रिलेवेंस शायद पहले से अब ज्यादा हो जाएगी, क्योंकि पहले आसान था ये समझना कि कौन 2 लेंडिंग कर 2 बारोवर्स को लेंडिंग कर रहा है या 3 लोन दे रहा है क्रेडिट ब्यूरो के साथ जाके, या प्राइसिंग क्या है। बट अब इंडेटनेस समझना और इम्पैक्ट ऑन बारोवर would be really too tough to understand through SRO's lenses, क्योंकि now I think that they have to more vigilant into the ground level. एडवोकेसी वाला पार्ट अब शायद उतना नहीं रहा प्रोडक्ट और फ्रीडम को लेके, जो लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड है। अब शायद एसआरओज की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अब होगी कि उनकी एडवोकेसी कस्टमर की तरफ से शुरू हो, और कस्टमर प्रोटेक्शन शुड बिकम फर्स्ट मोटो ऑफ एनी एमएफआई और एनी एसआरओ, क्योंकि सारी चीजें अब हमने खोल दी हैं। जैसे अजय भी कह रहे थे कि इंटरेस्ट रेट रिस्क के साथ लिंक हो सकता है, रिस्क अगर हाई है और ऑब्वियसली रिस्क हाई है तो क्या इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ सकते हैं, दैट्स अ बिग क्वेश्चन। क्या अगर लगता है कोविड जैसी सिचुएशन आती है और डिमोन जैसी सिचुएशन आती है तो पोस्ट दैट क्या है, चूंकि प्राइसिंग बढ़ेगी तो क्या प्राइसिंग हम ग्राउंड पे बढ़ा सकते हैं, और अगर बढ़ती है तो क्या फर्क बारोवर्स पे पड़ने वाला है। या जो एमविन या साधन के नेटवर्क के प्लेयर हैं, क्या उनमें कोई कंसिस्टेंस रह पाती है प्राइसिंग को लेके, कोई ब्रैकेट बना पाते हैं, या somebody would charge 28% and somebody would charge 21% और 19%। तो ये सब बड़े सवाल होंगे हमें लग रहा है आगे चल के, और चूंकि नया गवर्नेंस रिजीम शुरू होने वाला है, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एमएफआईज और एसआरओज के ऊपर अब ज्यादा होगी आरबीआई की अपेक्षा। तो कैसे करने वाले हैं, और हमें लग रहा है कि मीडिया भी अब और गवर्नमेंट भी अब ज्यादा विजिलेंट होगी। अगर हमसे गलती होती है कुछ भी तो शायद वी वोंट बी स्पेयर्ड ऑन दैट कि व्हाट वी आर डूइंग विद द कस्टमर, क्योंकि अब सब कुछ हम डिसाइड करेंगे। पहले तो आरबीआई शायद हेल्प करता था, और असम के केस में आरबीआई हेड फुट इज डाउन एंड सेज कि नहीं इस तरह से होना चाहिए, और काफी ठीक ही। तो लगता है कि अब बड़ा डेलिकेट और बड़ा सॉलिड अप्रोच दोनों मिला के एमएफआईज को लेना पड़ेगा और साथ में एसएफबीज को भी लेना पड़ेगा। और जो एक डिवाइड हुआ करता था एसएफबी और एमएफआईज भी मतलब लेंडिंग को लेके, शायद वो खत्म हुआ है। तो अब एक जॉइंट I see a joint association between SFBs and MFIs because they would be serving to the same customer and pricing bracket would be the same. तो 3-4 changes I could see एक तो कि role of SROs, how it is going to be changed in networks, then how that networks are going to behave with the SFBs and MFIs relationship, and then कितना हम गवर्नमेंट को जाके समझा पाते हैं कि इस जो रिजीम का जो नए गवर्नेंस का फायदा है उतना हमने कितना बारोवर को दिया हुआ है। अगर हम बारोवर को फायदा नहीं देने जा रहे हैं तो शायद गवर्नमेंट आर दैट borrowers would not be sparing us, though they would be buying a loan because they need the loan, but the moral responsibility hogi will fail on that. So thank you Sunil ji for giving me time to speak on this forum with the learned people, and especially Mr. Gandhi ji and Tamalda Rajay and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rakesh sir. Thank you very much. Now we'll request Sri Devesh Satyavasa.
Yeah. Namaskar. Thank you, Sudhir ji. Respected Mr. Gandhi, Tamalda, all the senior members of the microfinance sector. So I think whatever challenges this will throw, or what are the opportunities this discussion paper throws, a lot of people have talked about. But what I will say is that most importantly, it is a great vote of confidence on the work which the sector has done. I think we should all appreciate all the people who have been associated practitioners from a 15,000 crore sector in 2010 after Andhra crisis, today more than 2,30,000 crore sector. Some of the players becoming Universal Bank, and then some of becoming SFB. I think it's a huge vote of confidence. If you see the overview of the discussion paper, RBI clearly mentions the role of the microfinance sector in the national policy of poverty reduction, women empowerment, assistance to vulnerable groups, and improved standard of living. I think this is something very, very significant. I think other thing is, I think there were, as the landscape has changed and there was some arbitrage, which we all know, I don't want to talk about it. I think two very critical things, which I think Ajay has also spoken about. I think it's the point around price elasticity and customer service elasticity. If you see the primary objective of which has been laid down in the discussion paper is that they want that it is the concerns related to over-indebtedness, and they want that the interest rate should go down for the end borrower. I do not, suddenly people, there is a fear, but I think we are blinded by, some of us are getting blinded. No, it's about increasing, people will suddenly start increasing the rate to the borrower. I don't think that is going to happen. 70% of the sector today, the regulations were not impacted, where they were not part of the regulation, they already deregulated. I think those prices will come down, especially the banks and SFBs. Similarly, 10, 12 large NBFC, which have, I think 80% of the 30% which is left of the sector are already, supervised very, very, closely by RBI. So I don't think that suddenly you will see your people for, charging 26% and all that. I don't think that is going to happen. I think what is going to happen is what Ajay even mentioned very rightly, that there is some price elasticity which will improve the customer service. You have certain area. I think the major policy, I think, thought behind this is accessibility of the financial services to the places where, people at the bottom of the pyramid do not get, formal financial services. This price elasticity will help us reach. There are many areas. If you look at last 18 months, data, new customers, only 50 lakh new customers have been added. This is where the price elasticity is going to help us reach certain geographies, reduce rate for customers which are there with us, whether we have a clear track record, clear history, slightly charge more for areas where there's a issue of less population, issue of high risk, new to customer, and I think that is going to be, and linked with this is whole concept of over-indebtedness. So I don't see, there will be some product innovation, because I will just end with one small thing, saying that RBI, I think regulator had a huge faith on this sector, and regulator has put this challenge on all of us that, look, now we are freeing you from some of these shackles. Please find some innovative ways to assess the household income and increase the accessibility of the financial services. I think that's where what is in my view, is what RBI wants us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Devesh sir. Thank you very much. Now I will invite Shri Sadaf Said. Shri Sadaf Said from Muthoot Microfinance.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Sinha Saab. First of all, Gandhi sir, Ms. Chauhan from BIRD team, and all the dignitaries, very good afternoon, and the people who are listening. I'm really honored to be speaking here. Good afternoon, Tamalda also. I think on the subject matters, some of the speakers have really covered everything. The only thing that I would like to add here is maybe the fact that we are moving towards a risk-based pricing regime is something which is very, very good initiative that has come in place. If you look at the way the regulations are designed. I think Rakesh ji mentioned that the pricing and the regulation were very hard bounded. I think that was maybe needed because we were coming out of the Andhra Pradesh crisis. But now, over the period of time, how I see it is the regulations have evolved, and the way it is evolving is that the regulator has developed some amount of comfort and faith on the sector, and they believe that this is a sector which is focusing at the right place and doing the right things. So that's why the regulations are a little bit liberalizing. I think deregulating the interest rate is a great scenario. It allows scope for risk-based pricing. Areas which are difficult to operate in, areas which have higher delinquency, people never used to go in those areas because those areas are not viable to operate with the current regulatory regime. I think if the risk-based pricing comes in, and if we can price the credit in relation to the risk that we face in those areas, definitely those areas can be catered to. That is something which is very good. I have always been in my life a student of risk, and I have started my career in risk. So risk is a very dear topic to me. I think previously what we were looking at as an indebtedness was a false notion, I believe, in my assessment, because we were only looking at 2 MFI or 3 lender and everything. Nobody was talking about like what is the repayment capacity of the individual, how much loan that she can afford. You can have 3 lenders, each of them giving an installment, say a loan, even if you put a cap of 1,50,000 or 50,000 each, but keep a tenor of 12 months and the installment goes up. So nobody was looking at that. I think RBI has very wisely done this. We should look at total indebtedness of the household, and irrespective of what nature of loan, be it microfinance loan, be it the loan coming from bank or the loan coming from NBFC or the loan coming from any other entity, that should be considered. That is the true assessment of risk of an household. And conventionally, all credit risk management system has had the FOIR concept, where there should be a buffer for some obligation that are there for the household apart from the fixed obligation. So I think this is a welcome move. This is the move in the right direction, and this is also a move which recognizes the how industry has evolved. If you talk about pre-2010 era, there was no credit bureau. There was no information that was available about what loan is for each borrower. Now we have a very good credit bureau system. 2 credit bureaus are providing good amount of data on the customer. In fact, I would go to an extent and say that our credit bureau system is better than the commercial credit bureau system, maybe, which is there on the retail lending. And now what has happened over the period of time, now to assess the complete indebtedness of the individual, you have comprehensive credit report also available, which shows if there is a retail borrowing or if there is a MFI borrowing. So I think the underwriting quality will definitely improve with this regulation. You would have, if this regulation is implemented in letter and spirit, definitely this will yield better result. And it will also focus for people to go into areas which are more under-penetrated, where there are people who really need credit, and where we can go and serve those customers. So I think this is a very, very good kind of a regulation. The cap on loan that has been removed, the cap on pricing that has been removed, it's again a good move, and it provides a level playing field for everyone, which was very, very necessary, because we were living in an era where there was a regulatory arbitrage in the kind of entity you were operating with. So NBFC MFIs were regulated very highly, whereas bank had their own regulation and they had a little bit more leeway. And similar was Section 8 company and Section 25 companies. So I think now having a level playing field creates a kind of a good base for everybody to kind of be objective and assess the individual customer and lend to them. So that is a very, very good outcome of these regulations. As we speak, these regulations are still a draft. We would have to see what all of the proposed guidelines become really the guidelines for all of us. But putting every institution that is lending into the microfinance space at the same level, it really, really kind of sets the trend that we are at a level playing field. So that is something which is very, very good, I think, outcome of this regulation. The individual should only look at what the borrower is borrowing and what is her capacity rather than where it is coming from. And the way the regulation are, and RBI has very smartly done the income caps as well for rural area 1,25,000 and the urban area 2 lakh rupees, because given the FOIR and given the nature of loan, and maximum installment that you can offer per month in a household in an urban area is around 8,333 and in a rural area 5,208. So that is the maximum installment that a household can be given. And if she has existing loan, within this amount, the installment has to come in. So I think that puts a cap on sort of a loan amount as well as on the interest rate scope, because nobody would like to give a loan for 10 years or 15 years. And so if the loan is going to be in 2-year, 3-year kind of a tenor and the installment is given and the kind of IRR that we are operating, we are not looking at a very huge loan amount kind of an exposure. So RBI has done a good job in terms of some of us in our discussions have called it a Sampurna Swaraj. So this is actually a Sampurna Swaraj where we have to determine what we have to lend and how much. But as everybody has said, the speaker before me, that it also puts responsibility on us as an institution that we have to be responsible. So I think this is an era which has come for responsible lending, and not only talk about it, but this is about really administering this and ensuring that we are responsible lenders. Though there is room that has been given to us, we operate within the kind of guidelines, and we know the ultimate interest that is the borrower that we need to protect. So I think with that, I would like to thank Sinha Saab and Upma to provide this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadar Saab. Thank you very much. Let us move for Swaraj. Now I request Anjan Das Gupta from ASA International, India. Anjan Das.
Yeah, thank you, Sudhir ji, for asking me to join this. While most of the eminent speakers before me have covered most of it, I'll keep it short. Definitely a sizable step forward from Reserve Bank of India. And on the pros, I'll not lose my sleep on the 28th or 29th of the quarter end, to see what the base rate is going to be, and see how much it's going to eat into my margin. So that is one good step that has been taken. We are free to fix up our interest rate, but freedom definitely, but freedom comes with the responsibility, as some of our speakers have said before. So I mean, effectively, we are, I mean, as per this discussion paper, we'll be allowed to set up the interest rate as a policy. The 10 years also possibly may go off. So the responsibility part comes in that if some institution, if they don't believe in responsible lending, if they start giving a 1 lakh rupees loan for a 1-year tenure, that actually harms the client as well as the whole ecosystem. If somebody is charging a huge rate of interest, making the EMI sizable, again, it is harmful. So effectively, the common responsible code should remain. I mean, there should, I mean, there the federations are going to play a very important role. The TRL cannot be done away with to maintain the sector and the ecosystem. Definitely, clients' income basis is a good step forward. But what is going to be defined as a client income? Like, I mean, how are they going to calculate it? How each institution is going to calculate this? This has to be structured. This has to be actually decided and put into place, or each individuals will have their own way of determining the client's income to suit them. So here again, the responsible lending comes in. Institution should actually abide by a common policy, a common code. That will be important. There are going to be sizable changes to product. So many opportunities. Like, I mean, you could have multiple type of products. So again, the question of JLG, that also will have to undergo a review, how we are going to do it under the existing JLG system. More of individual due diligence will be necessary. And as the products are changed, even the credit bureau also will have to change their system. Like, I mean, right now we just provided a descriptive information, although some credit bureaus are trying to putting the scoring into that system. So, I mean, if it is an individual risk-based product, then the credit scores also need to be incorporated into the credit bureau. There are sizable issues that need to be actually addressed or clarification given. I mean, what is going to happen to BC? Like, I mean, the lending rates of BC institution, like whether the same rule will apply as is applied here, and what will be the onward lending on BC. So definitely RBI will come out with a clarification on this too in future. So overall, it is a very good directive. Like, I mean, amidst all these negative episodes that we have been facing all these years, this is really a welcome change that is going to come in. So thank you, Sudhir ji, again for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Anjan sir. Thank you very much for the brief. Now I would invite Pauri Bhasa from Pahal Finance. She is heading a very small NBFC MFI. Small NBFC MFIs also have their issues. So I have requested to invite Ms. Pahal, Ms. Pauri Bhasa to kindly.
Hello, good afternoon, Sinhaji. Respected Gandhi sir, Chauhan sir, Tamalda, Satish ji, and a lot of my senior colleagues. Actually, I've been hearing and noting all the points. And I think being the last speaker, I think I'm one of the last speakers, I almost sort of end up summarizing a lot of points that have already been said, plus some of the very relevant points for, small to medium or slightly higher side of medium kind of.
Can you put on your video? Your video is off.
Yeah, but then you might end up losing my voice. So this is a very welcome initiative from RBI to look at the sector very holistically, since everybody is now almost going to be playing with the same rules of the game, and also recognizing the potential it holds, particularly when the theme post-COVID is going to be all about restart and rebuild, and the role of microfinance is, very well cut out. The intent of this paper is very clearly captured. The major being addressing the concerns over, the indebtedness related issues, bringing down the rate of interest and empowering the borrowers to make more informed decisions. So I'm just putting my points into, some of the very positive points and some of the potential challenges that we might have. So on the positive side, as most of the speakers have said, that it is going to be more of a level playing field for the regulated entities. Plus, there is going to be an opportunity for risk-based pricing. And from the customer's point of view, I think it's going to be very advantageous, as the competition hopefully will result into a better offering for them. Point number two, this will also push players in the market for innovation in product design and delivery. Point number three, which is, where I completely agree what Tamalda said, that it is going to be very helpful on multiple counts, as we are moving from entity-based regulation to a entity-agnostic regulation, and it is going to be more activity-based regulation. And point number four, which is like competition may push people to explore newer market. I heard a lot of speakers already talking about this, and this will also add that we could target some of the riskier markets with appropriate pricing, and all these initiatives might result into expansion of markets. Some of the potential challenges, according to me, would be current mechanism of delivering the entire JLG product is pretty simple. Ticket sizes are very small. There is no major credit involved. So in terms of the quality and readiness or training of the staff, it is much simpler to deliver the credit in the current format. But in a new format, it is going to be slightly difficult, particularly for the smaller MFIs. because it would require a good amount of investment in system, technology, product development, product delivery, and most importantly, training and retraining of the staff. So in a short term, the cost might go up. As most people have already said, that evaluation of the household credit is always going to remain a challenge for the unorganized sector, mostly because we are dealing with the women borrowers. As this is more perception based rather than evidence based, and hence the perception might change from person to person and business to business and geography to geography. So this is going to be one of the most daunting tasks in terms of the priorities. With increase in competition, the smaller players will also have their own constraints because they will have very limited capacity to invest in technology, in people, and also to match up with the competition going on in the market. And in that sense, they will also have to find their niche in the market. They may not be able to do this immediately, so they will have to do something which is very, very niche for them. One more important point, which is more like post-COVID or post-lockdown, we are already seeing a lot of pressure on the group guarantee. And, the concept, because this is entirely collateral-free lending that we are talking about, and group guarantees or the group contribution being majorly compromised in a post-COVID scenario, with addition of, a lot of digitization, different ticket sizes, different rates, this might weaken the group dynamics or group cohesiveness further. So that also is a possibility and needs to be looked at. And last, I'm sure a lot of people have already talked about the role of credit bureaus. So while credit bureaus will have to try and should be able to give us a very comprehensive information, but also keeping in mind the price sensitivity that this particular market has. So these are some of the points from my side. Thank you so much, Sinha ji, for giving me an opportunity to speak here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pallavi ma'am. Thank you very much. After a new age small MFI, now we will invite one of the NBFC MFI which has become SMP, and they are preferred to be the last speaker, Shri Govind Singh ji.
Sudhir ji, thank you. This is a good introduction. And thank you for making this happen, in fact. And we have some limitations right now, so I can't speak on various points. But good to be a part of this. And मेरा सभी को नमस्कार, जितने भी लोग यहाँ पे हैं, गांधी जी and a lot of other speakers. So I think सभी ने जो points थे वो cover किए गए हैं. Some of the people asked that there should be some Hindi speakers also. I thought I will also try to do that part. So सभी ने अपने points cover किए. I think most of the points have been covered. मेरी ओर से सिर्फ यही कहना है कि जो ये I have seen this segment को पिछले 15 साल से बहुत closely देख रहा हूँ. So for me it is completion of the mainstreaming of microfinance industry. मतलब उस टाइप का है जो यात्रा करीब 10-12 साल पहले स्टार्ट हुई थी. आज जो बहुत मतलब चरम पर पहुंची. I not say complete हो गई है, but चरम पर तक पहुंची, जबकि पूरा opening up of sector किया गया है. And even the restrictions which were put earlier, those have been removed. So for me, it is a mainstreaming of microfinance sector, and it is the acceptance of microfinance sector. We have seen जितनी भी आज की तारीख में finance ministry से और RBI से जितनी भी discussion हो रहे हैं, उसमें MFI का नाम हमेशा आ रहा है. It's really जिसे बोलते जीत है इस sector की, जो हमने 10 से 15 साल में पूरा काम किया है पिछले खास तौर से उसका है. और जो alignment of all type of players in this sector, that was there for a long time. I think अगर आप 10 साल पहले के भी papers देखेंगे, उसमें भी ये था कि all players should have the same norms as far as microfinance is concerned, because it should be client specific norms, not the channel specific or the institution specific. तो वो I think जो 10-12 साल से काम चल रहा था, जिसकी चर्चा चल रही थी, that has happened today, or that is about to happen today. It's certainly a very, very welcome thing. So mainstreaming is happening, acceptance is happening, and जो जिसके alignment with everything is happening. So मेरे ख्याल से इससे अच्छी कोई बात नहीं हो सकती है. Yes, I think all people mention about some challenges also. जरूर चैलेंज रहेंगे, बट ये जो सेक्टर है, मुझे लगता है कि जितने चैलेंज ये सह सकता है, नो अदर सेक्टर कैन इवन थिंक ऑफ. लीव असाइड मीटिंग दो चैलेंजेस, द टाइप ऑफ चैलेंजेस राइट फ्रॉम लेफ्ट. आप कोई भी चीज देखें, बहुत चैलेंजेस किए हैं और बहुत सारे इनोवेशंस किए हैं. सदाम मेंशन अबाउट द क्रेडिट ब्यूरो. today microfinance credit bureau is one of the best even today also in terms of discipline by the players and in terms of the type of data we are able to get in from a very informal segment. So जो हमारे challenges से निकलेंगे for sure, no doubt about that. But उसके comparison जो benefits हैं for clients, for the sector and for all the institutions वो बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, वो उसको outweigh करते हैं. So certainly there will be challenges. And CGM NABARD also mentioned about governance piece has to be improved. Certainly yes, I think जब आपके पास इतनी responsibility बनती है तो governance का काम और बहुत important हो जाता है. And I think already हमने 10 से 12 साल में देखा governance MFI में और overall sector में काफी improve हुई है. Maybe it will improve further with this you can say responsibility जो कि board level पे दी गई है. Certainly these will improve. Another thing that has happened during last decade or so is on the technology part. Ajay mentioned about technology use and a lot of other speakers also about use of technology. I think this sector, ये technology वहाँ जाके use करते हैं जहाँ पे normal banks नहीं कर पाते हैं. We go to hinterland and talk of technology in that hinterland. वाराणसी से 200 किलोमीटर अंदर जाके हम टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं. तो आई थिंक टेक्नोलॉजी का अडॉप्शन एज वेल एज टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज जो ये सेक्टर कर पाता है बहुत कम लोग कर पाते हैं उतनी आसानी से. So we know there will be challenges in terms of technology जो नए guidelines आ रहे हैं उसको meet करने के लिए, but this sector has done in past and they will certainly do this in future also. So I think overall जो guidelines दिख रही हैं अभी तो draft guidelines बनेंगी तो certainly it is a recognition for the sector and overall जो एक growth होती है long term growth and balanced growth and जो hiccup से बाहर निकल के जो growth होती है that certainly we'll see in next few years इसका benefit. So certainly it is good for the sector, good for the customer and good for the institution and overall जो financial inclusion का agenda हम सब लोग का रहता है उसको आगे करने में बहुत मददगार होगा. Yes, and governance and technology plus जो भी हमारी और requirements हैं क्योंकि we have been always very highly responsive and timely response के लिए हम लोग जाने जाते हैं. Certainly those things will happen. So once again, all the very best and Sudhirji, thank you very much for arranging this this today's event. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Govind sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, चलिए वो बात की बात है लेकिन sir, when I initiated this entire this event, I never thought that there will be so much great attendance of more than 100 people, and this has created a lot of problem to most of the esteemed speaker. My sincere apologies. लेकिन गांधी साहब का नाम सुन के and looking to the versatile of speaker people have joined, so kindly please bear with us. Anyhow, sir, now we are already behind schedule by about 20-25 minutes. Still some around 40 minutes, 40-50 minutes. Still we have some open and out session, and there are two esteemed speakers to whom it will be completely, it will not be good on my part to overlook them. One, I like to invite Shri Nanaya Kalangana. Is MD of Equifax, the Credit Bureau. A lot of issues are there with the Credit Bureau. Credit Bureau has their own, they have a lot of things to explain to the partner nation. So I request Nanaya sir to kindly have few words, sir, in the shortest possible words, sir. Nanaya sir, are you able?
Yeah, thank you, Sina. Thank you, Sina, for inviting me over, and respected Mr. R. Gandhi and all the members on this in this meeting. It's certainly a great step from RBI to extend the policy, and we as a bureau, I think, very uniquely positioned to play an enabling role in the implementation of the new framework. So I think there's a lot of conversation about credit assessment at the household level and also applying certain limits in terms of what the credit exposure should be. So we have a single view of the borrower as a credit bureau in the country. We have a single view of the borrower. So we can play that enabling role in establishing the household income and what's the FOIR available for the lending decisions. So, those are some of the examples of where we can play. There is also a reference to purpose of for which the loan has been given. I think that is currently not completely data that is submitted to the bureau. I think there is potential scope for improving the data on the purpose for which the loan has been given. I think that's another step which we can capture. And in the interest rate conversations, right? Risk-based pricing. I think it's it's a great step. In my view, risk-based pricing enables a very healthy growth of credit. The healthy growth of credit culture, right? If somebody realizes that if I repay on time, I have a potential of getting a better interest rate, I think that improves the overall credit health in the ecosystem. So there are a lot of positive viewpoints on this new framework. As Tamalda rightly said, this has now become an activity-based regulation. And when it moves into an activity-based regulation, I think Credit Bureau has a common view of the activity, both from a lender perspective and also self-regulatory organization perspective, and also from a regulator perspective. So we are in a position to provide that framework for enabling decisions at all these levels, and also enabling access to credit by the borrower segment. So there needs to be a lot of collaboration between the industry and the Credit Bureau, because we need the data to come in. An example, if household has to be established, I think the lenders are in a much better position to establish the household and submit the data to the Bureau. So we can establish the household, and thereafter we need to figure out how to establish the income. And then we obviously have the existing exposures in the Bureau. So we can easily calculate the FOIR. So for all this, it has to be an extremely collaborative effort between the industry and the Bureau, so that we get the right data to be able to provide the feedback to the industry as you make a lending decision. That's point number one. Point number two, I think there were observations saying that how will the smaller players in the industry adopt to the new framework? I think, credit bureaus, we have the capacity to, build a framework and, help the, smaller players also to avail the benefit of this framework. So we can play that role so efficiently as a credit bureau. And I think overall, we are very, very delighted to be a partner to the microfinance industry, and as I always say, play that enabling role, and we continue to look forward to being able to play that enabling role in the newer framework, and work as much as we can do to ease the process. And I think there were references to technology. I think we also, along with data, we also bring in technology at an affordable cost, so that it can be implemented in the microfinance sector. So Sinaji, thank you so much. There's a lot to talk about this new framework, and a lot that we could work together as a bureau and industry together. But given the short time, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity and inviting me over for this event. And all the very best. And UPMA has always been at the forefront of engaging in the broader ecosystem of microfinance. And I appreciate your leadership and appreciate the leadership at UPMA for all the initiatives that you all take. And thank you very much. And we're very delighted to be working with UPMA. I'm very delighted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. There have been some glitches because of overcrowding of this memo, and sir has got delayed. Gandhi sir ko maine assured kiya tha ki we will try to abide by the schedule, and we have already crossed 40-50 minutes. This is unpardonable, I think. But again, Tamalda is here to kindly manage it. Anyhow, now I would invite today's Anujit Toratkar from Swatantra is there. Can you, Toratkar sir? So I think some around 1 or 2 minutes. Can you do something, because we are already delayed, sir?
I think Srinaji, Anujit is not, I guess, is still in the call.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would you like to make some point on behalf of Anujit?
Yes, on behalf of all of us, thank you, Srinaji, Mr. Gandhi, Danaya Sahab, Satishji, Tamalda. This is Vineet here from Swatantra. Naturally, I still remember 3 years back when we were meeting RBI and board and trying to challenge them that why can't these regulations be product oriented, or as Tamalda said, activity oriented. And the answer was, we have never done that. We have always regulated entities. We have never done a product oriented regulation. But I guess when this has come, it is an absolute indicator that the sector maturity in the mindset of the regulator and probably all the stakeholders have gone up a notch above. And like any sector, when it matures, three things are likely to happen. One is obviously an innovation and technology, because it will push people to think, create new products. How? We will see. Second, it also kind of changes the consolidation framework of the industry, and I'm not going to talk about much here, but the industry is already quite consolidated in hands. And third is a huge responsibility, right? So essentially, consolidation, innovation, and responsibility goes hand in hand when a sector matures. And we have seen this enough number of times. But one thing that somebody was saying, what do we do? Financial inclusion that has been done by NBFC MFI has been based on 2 T's, we say, trust and touch, right? Now, trust and touch is something which we will still have to maintain to usher in a financial inclusion in the deeper parts of India. You know, without this, it will be a challenge. So we already have a niche. And in this niche, I'm sure we can do wonderfully well with the kind of level playing field which has been given to all of us. Naturally, of course, there are a lot of questions in terms of ability to ascertain incomes, FOIR, etc., which I believe, I mean, Anaya, you know that, you know, for various competitive reasons, a lot of retail lenders do not report many things, including EMIs as well. And hence the question comes, how do you actually estimate FOIR? You know, but then this is something that we have to work to make this sector disciplined across. If you define a product, then everybody has to report to CICs a certain way so that the output can also be taken in a linear fashion for everyone. Otherwise, interpretation can leave a much larger gray area in terms of assessing, especially when you are dealing with segments which are of a lower income. And finally, of course, the largest question which naturally comes is the democratization of this product definition has brought in multitude of entities into the framework, right? And therefore, the role of SRO, which at some point in time was largely based on proxy and fair practice code and many other aspects, has to metamorphose into something which is absolutely much more analytical and much more responsible, right? And that's a key challenge, which we also have to think if we have to do the justice to the level playing field combined with the balance of responsibility. So I'll just stop here. We don't have answers. We are challenging these, we're putting these questions, and I'm sure a lot of debate will happen around these questions when we try to seek an answer. Thank you, Sudhirji. Thank you. And I guess we have an interesting time ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vinitji. Now, today's last speaker is Shri Satish. Satish has already done a wonderful conference on the same topic. I would like to have some few words in the shortest possible time because we are already delayed, and now I think our patience is losing, sir. Anyhow, Satish, can you please add some 1 or 2 points for the address of Gandhi, sir?
Hello. Hello, Satish is speaking.
Don't think Mr. Satish is on the line. So, Sinhaji, can we go directly to Mr. Gandhi?
Satish जी unmute कर दीजिए.
You want me to say a few words?
Yeah.
Because all enough I am missing. Sinhaji.
Sir, yes, sir. You have the opportunity to speak, sir. We cannot close anything without you, sir.
No, thank you. I don't want to add because all of us, all of you have said, and of course it is a very happy occasion to be speaking just before Mr. Gandhi because both of us were together in RBI Bangalore nearly 4 decades back And of course, we on and off, we meet and exchange views, but in the recent past, we have not met. And I'm sure that we'll have a good overview of the RBI thinking as far as these regulations are concerned. I can say that some of the things which are based on what we were discussing with RBI over the last 5 years. And there have been, we have posed some issues. There is RBI posed to us in a counter some of the issues. So I think as some of our colleagues, especially Vineet, has said that this is a affirmation of RBI in the sector's maturity and its ability to manage its own affairs. So the sector will have to take that in a very responsible manner and go about. I would only say that what all has to be said, I have said in my Financial Express article and my discussion over the Rajya Sabha TV. I would only say that there is no need for apprehensions and the nitty-gritty of the implementation, because we all know that many of the issues can be discussed and smoothened out. That should not be an issue. But it certainly increases the role for the SROs. Probably we will have to strengthen and
Satish, we are not hearing you.
RBI Deputy Governor Gandhi ji.
Satish, now you are on mute.
This is what I wanted to add. I didn't want to take much of your time. Thank you, Sinha.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Satish, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I request Tamal, sir, if you would like to sum it up, or should we?
I would only just say that had I been Mr. Gandhi, I would have walked out by this time. So that is by summing up. He is gracious enough. Yeah. He is showing his patience to stay back. So that is enough, sir. Just all is yours, Mr. Gandhi. Everybody wants to hear you. So I don't want to say anything. Please, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Farooq, for inviting and asking me to share my views on the current topic. I'm very glad to be interacting with all of you, and special thanks to Tamalji, who is a real person behind this invitation. So thanks, Tamalji, to meet, and also to meet old friends like Satish or everybody whom you have met, interacted at various points in time during our career. Thank you very much. Now, coming to the special topic, because it is a discussion paper, obviously, the first thing I get from the speakers and panelist views is that everybody has clearly understood what is the provocation for Reserve Bank to come out with the discussion paper. That understanding is good. And also the fundamental principles of the regulatory framework, the proposed regulatory framework, that the regulation relating to microfinance is going to be lender agnostic, it is going to be activity based, there will be a common definition, freedom in pricing, and there will be a holistic definition of all those things. That understanding is really good, because that is the first starting point for a discussion paper. The motives behind, the objectives behind bringing out that paper and the proposed approach, is it clear? So that I get the feedback very clearly that it is very, very clear. So that is something of very, very gratifying, that goes well for Reserve Bank to have drafted this. And also, as Satish did mention, that there, and others also mentioned that constantly there has been a lot of during the last 5 years over all these subject matters. So that has resulted in this clarity. That is number one. Number two, yes, several speakers have brought out some specific caution that people will have to bear in mind, especially Tamalji and Kanwal, Ajay Kanwal also did mention about that these things come with greater responsibility, and others also seconded that. So freedom comes with the responsibility. That is another clear understanding of this message by all of you. That is also good, because the implications when we say that you are free to determine the pricing, along with that, the very first responsibility is that the rate should not be usurious. That because that is first thing. But another important implication by some of you might not have really understood is that the non-MFI lenders, that is other entities like banks, whether it is mainstream bank or SFBs and NBFCs, but so far they had thought that whatever is allowed for microfinance MFI in terms of pricing, that 24% is applicable to them. That alibi is now removed. It is proposed to be removed. So each one has to be fixing the pricing based on their own normal way of calculating the risk reward and along with the cost perception. Each board has to determine and clearly establish that this is the right pricing, not because the RBI has permitted 24% or 22% or whatever. So that is one implication. Other than the NBFC MFI have to realize that this freedom is going to be really be affecting them in terms of pricing. That's what Reserve Bank is talking about, that interest rate for the microfinance customers, there is likely to be a fall, or there is going to be a reduction. That is from this group, that is good. But the another implication of that, all of you will have to remember that it means a kind of higher financial challenge for the NBFC MFIs. Because when the banks and SFBs are going to be charging, let us say at 16% or 14% because of their own calculations lead to that kind of number. And if you are going to be by targeting something by about 20, then you are likely to lose a customer. The competition is going to be put pressure on them. There, the solution, as by Ajay did mention, that you have to look out for opportunities in terms of utilizing technology. Tamalji also mentioned technology and increasing efficiency, where reduce the cash operations or otherwise. And somebody did mention, I think Bausar did mention that, to look at hitherto the sectors where you have not yet thought of going there. Those may be riskier, but appropriate risk pricing should be make it possible for you to go in that direction. And that's what the bank and the government will also be requiring, that here to the sectors where mainstream banks or even MFIs have not yet gone, but they do require financial support from the formal system. And if you are stepping there, then that is a welcome development. So that is a good augury for all of you to recognize that there is going to be this challenge. Then the definition, the common definition, sorry, not the common, that household as the base for credit appraisal. That all of you have brought in a consensus that that is the right approach, especially for this set of people. Even though individually they take the responsibility for the loans, but otherwise their whole existence is along with the family members. So that's why the household total income, household total indebtedness, that has to be factored while determining what possible facilities you will be offering them. So that is again good. And thoughtfully, the discussion paper says that it is not fixing any specific guidelines how the household income should be measured. There was some comment or somebody did mention that there should be a guideline from the regulator. No, it should not, because the very fundamental principle of a microfinance capacity all these years, which has been recognized by the Reserve Bank, is that the capacity to innovate. So the set of people are the population where you are working, it is not going to be similar to one another. There are going to be a lot of difference between various types of entities, the households, different geography, And that would mean that the model that you are going to build will differentiate between one MFI and another MFI. That is where the freedom has come in. And that obviously, I think Mr. Chauhan did, Dr. Chauhan did mention about that. There is a very clear necessity for the board of directors of these microfinance institutions to be upgraded, to say the least. So they should have a lot of capacity to understand, to fix the pricing properly based on the risk that you are likely to take, and constantly to monitor the operations. So the higher capacity or the governance level to be brought to a next higher level, that is a very important implication all of us will have to appreciate. Then the transparency. There was not, except in the opening remarks by the Dipmala, she mentioned about the specific provision in this discussion paper regarding the one-page key information for very clearly articulated information for the borrowers. That's a very important one, because if you would recall the earlier way back in 90s, Reserve Bank brought out such a position relating to the credit card industry, because around that time there were quite a bit of not being so transparent way of offering the services by the credit card industry. So Reserve Bank had to come out with regulation relating to minimum terms and regulations to be brought in. So something similar has been proposed for the microfinance borrowers. This one-page key information certainly will be useful to person. Then another one possible problem that a challenge that we may face is that the pool of microfinance borrowers may shrink because of the common. One is that today microfinance institutions, they finance a party, two institutions, upper limit is there, but beyond that the same person could be taking loans from the banks and others. So now that is going to be stopped. It is irrespective of any number of entities may finance, but the total limit allowed for such a person has to be within this parameters of 1.25 lakhs or 2 lakhs or whatever. So so that way there could be an initial in the short term, there could be some shrinkage in the total borrower pool, but by going forward, once everything stabilizes, that will automatically play out, and you yourself will be finding out the real needy further people who have not yet got into the mainstream. So that is one. And the competition from banks and NBFCs that all of you have recognized, that there is going to be plus or minus in that competition. Pricing obviously is going to be different between various types of entities here, because of their own funding pattern is going to be different. But what I perceive is that still banks, being banks and mainstream, they are unlikely to be coming to the same segment as you are in, except in the urban locations. So that way there will be differentiation, even though they will be available and offering the microfinance as a product, but the clientele is going to be distinctly different for the banks and the regular microfinance institutions. I would be, I can see that is going to be there. Then one more suggestion, which is in this paper, which has not got much of attention in today's discussion, I think, except Dipmala did mention about that. The definition of the microfinance loan is going to be expanded and to be inclusive of financing consumption needs also. So far, the out of the total limits, the certain type of consumption need like medical and education had been kept outside. Now it is going to be inside. So to that extent, there is going to be a bit of challenge in terms of the total capacity for the institutions to lend. But again, it is going to be an initial hiccup rather than a permanent one. So that is one. then I do see one or two gaps which could have been included in the discussion paper. One is that microfinance institutions have to keep 50% CRAR, SBs also, but mainstream bankers do not require that high capital. So there is a difference in that. That is one. And the provisions also, there is a difference between what the banks will have to, how much provisions they have to make for microfinance loans vis-a-vis the microfinance NBFCs required to maintain, like 1% on the portfolio, or for the 50% for the when the loan goes past 90 days, and 100% for when the loan goes DPD goes past 180 days. Whereas such requirements are not there for banks. So to that extent, there could be some more harmonization which may be needed, and maybe some of you can study this particular aspect and give appropriate suggestions. Either Southern or MFIN can think over that little more deeply and provide that. So that way, I'm really happy that to be interacting with you. As I said, just to conclude, that I'm happy that all of you have understood the discussion paper properly, the reasons behind bringing it, and the proposed framework. There is clarity. There is ample understanding is there. And second aspect is that most of it, all of you, major recommendation, all of you are welcoming it. Freedom is most certainly that is being welcomed, and also recognizing that along with that, responsibility also is placed on your shoulders. So that is great. So thank you very much.
Very much, sir. You have given a lot of insight, and the points that got our practitioners got hold of our CFR. That is really you have drawn our attention very rightly. Now I request Tamalda. Now you can do our job of expressing thanks on behalf of the association to Gandhi sir. Sir, मैं आपसे एक बार फिर से माफी चाहता हूँ for getting delayed. ये just आपकी सूचना के लिए बता दें. This is our first virtual conference. We are a very small association. We are the state association. MFIN and Southern has a bigger and wider chapter. We are only 25 or 28 members. We are a very small organization, and this is our first conference. So there have been some glitches. I have assured you to be abide by time, but still we are late by 1 hour. अब हम लोग बहुत कुछ अपना lot of sites को हटा करके कमालदार से ये काम हम अपनी तरफ से करना चाहते हैं.
Small finance, microfinance being small, and you are
बोल रहा है कि उत्तर प्रदेश leads the country. So even if Sadhan is there at all India level, we have to be always be careful of Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah, Sudhir Saab actually asked me about a week back that whether to give the keynote address, I can get Mr. Gandhi. And then I reached out to Mr. Gandhi, and I was also very happy that Sudhir Saab has picked up the right person, that because Mr. Gandhi did see the Andhra Pradesh crisis from very close quarters. And without batting an eyelid, Gandhi sir said yes. In fact, I suggested instead of giving a keynote address, he should give a valedictory address after listening to others. So the villain of the piece of is me, Gandhi sir. So for the you blame me. Otherwise, you should have just given the keynote address and gone. But I thought it will be very useful if and your presence will make others also to do their homework and make better presentation. So thank you, sir. I have nothing else to say, but just to thank you. And just if you 2-3 small thing, if you can take a minute of yours, Gandhi sir, I would like you to highlight. One is this: it talks about urban and rural. So what happens to the semi-urban? Because whenever you talk about bank branches, etc., you always go for 4 types of things: metro, urban, rural, semi-urban, and rural. Here you have modified into cutting into urban and rural. Is there any case for something going for yet another tier? That's one. Second is, this 1.25 lakh from rural and 2 lakh from urban. Do you think it should be a dynamic thing, like linked to inflation or something? At least every 2 years, should it be reviewed, or it should be the same? And third, you have answered, but I just want to re-emphasize, is it correct thing you are saying that if somebody is falling into this 1.25 lakh in rural and household and 2 lakh in urban household, this family cannot access any other loan barring microfinance loan. So banks entry in any format, be it consumer loan, be it education loan, be it personal loan, or be it two-wheeler loan, in any which way, banks cannot enter and come as a top-up agent. Is it right thing? These three things are, if you can just 1.5 minutes, 30 seconds each, if you can say, I think in the industry will get the benefit. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you. Yes, these are relevant questions. The first about the stratification, whether it is just to rural and urban is sufficient, or the standard rural, semi-urban and kind of thing should be there. So too much stratification may not be warranted. Perhaps as feedback is that urban defined rural 1.25, other than rural 2. Something like that, if it can be put it, that will solve this problem, rather than bringing for semi-urban 1.5 and what is the other definition? I'm forgetting. The
metro.
Metro with this 2.5, something like that. Too many things may not be warranted. So we can put it that perhaps rural is 1.25 and anything non-rural is 2. That way it be simpler to implement. And the second question that you asked was
dynamic.
That was the third one. Yes, obviously the limits will have to be periodically revisited. We cannot forever keep it at 1.25 and 2. But 2 years will be a very, very short period to short gap. Obviously, that's not that should not be there. Rather, it should be once in 5 years. If it is revised, that will be a good thing. Number 2. Number 3, the other question that you asked, that again as a follow-up of my comment, that does it mean that these kind of borrowers cannot have at any point in time loans beyond 1.25 or 2? That is for any other purpose, whether it is education or medical or anything, that is the implication. So long as somebody is defined as a microfinance borrower, then his capacity, because by there we are starting with the assumption that the household income is not sufficient enough to support more than 50% of their income for supporting or paying off the servicing the loans. So that is the assumption we are making. Under that automatically would mean that the such clientele cannot be given any top-up loans for any other purpose. That's a fundamental proposition. So either if some institution would think that the person is worthy enough for higher loan, then that person can no longer be considered as a microfinance borrower. That means that others are calculating it wrongly. That either his certain type of income has not been properly recognized, whether this particular institution could see that they have other potential. That means that the privileges as a microfinance lending, that won't be available for such a, that's why it will have to be seen.
Okay, sir.
Tamalda, sorry, Tamalda, this is Vineet here. And just to Mr. Gandhi, for example, if in a housing finance or in a two-wheeler finance, if there is a secured loan provided, and a lot of that is required under PMAY, BLC, and other schemes for rural people to construct their houses. And these are very long tenor loans, and essentially they would naturally fill up the FOIR of the customer. Now, of course, those loans will still be HFCs because NHB provides the HF. Those loans still be two-wheeler loans. So, you know, they cannot be all, are they all harmonized into so-called microfinance loan per se?
No, they won't be considered as a microfinance loan, but in assessing the household's total indebtedness, it will come.
Yes. Yes.
And based on that total indebtedness, what is the, here the proposal is that up to 50% they should be the total capacity for them to service any type of, all types of loans.
Correct. Right. So FOIR is 50%. Yeah.
You have still there is a space for microfinance to be, microfinance lending should be possible for that person. Then yes, it is possible. Otherwise,
Sure.
if it's already going past that 50, no further microfinance facilities can be offered.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Tamal.
Yes, sir. No, Sudhir sir, all up to you.
Sir, on behalf of the association, we would like to present one memento to Gandhi sir. Sir, this is your place, sir.
Thank you very much. I acknowledge it virtually. Thank you.
It will reach your place, sir. I've already taken that. Thank you very much. Now I have request for 1 minute vote of thanks from our Vice Chairman, Mr. Bharat Singh. Mr. Bharat Singh, please convey vote of thanks. Before Bharat Singh, you conclude, my heartfelt thanks to Deepmala Ghosh, ma'am, because of some technical glitches on my part, you cannot present the PPT, but then you have presented the entire RBI regulation in the most smallest possible time in the best possible way. So Deepmala ji, thank you. Special thank you to you. And now Bharat Singh ji, our Vice Chairman, is there to convey vote of thanks on behalf of all the members present over here.
So, sabhi ko namaskar. Myself Bharat, actually representing Upma over here as a Vice Chairman, and I am from Satin. So we had a very great session. I think I can say that the whole session is about a new era, as rightly quoted by Tamal sir. And that new era is about change, and the session, the way it has gone, I think the insight by all the elite speakers and all the August people has been very insightful. And now it's the turn of the microfinance players, we players, that yes, we have to adapt with the changes. And yes, almost all the parameters have been so nicely covered. How to deal with the change management is that, for example, very rightly said by Chauhan said that yes, we have to be more driven, governance driven, more should be on a professional ground. Similarly, Tamal sir had told that yes, this is a change. It's not only that we have to enjoy it, but we have to be prepared. We have to prepare, we have to be more efficient, more technology based. Similarly, a lot of the points have been covered by all the elite speakers. Thanks to all for the great insight into this, and this has been a very learning session for all the microfinance players, whether they are small or big. But yes, these now we have to be prepared with the changes, and then only we can be sustainable, survive for a better day. Thanks to all. A special thanks to Gandhi sir for giving his time and giving us insight, and thanks to all the elite members who have been here. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Thanks for your insight.
Sir, हम आपको ऐसे ही दोबारा कभी-कभी परेशान करते रहेंगे, because we have got lot of things, lot of insight. Sir, please be blessful for us. Excuse us for the delay today. Thank you very much. Tamal sir, thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Tamal sir, आपसे सिर्फ एक बात कहना चाहता हूँ, एक सेंटेंस में सर, गुरु गोविंद दो खड़े, काके लागों पाए, बलिहारी गुरु आपकी गोविंद जी बताए. Sir, with this I just convey my heartfelt thanks to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Have a good evening. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you to all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sinaji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you, Sinaji. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. या हो गई बढ़िया है 28 पार्टिसिपेंट हो गए